Hello everyone and welcome to lab number 7A of this course. In this lab I'm going to still configure the DHCP server but using in another way, and that's when the DHCP server is not in the same network where the DHCP clients are. Okay, so we have to go through the 8 points that you can see here in front of you, but before we start doing the points, let me just show you what is the network scenario and what we need to do in this lab. So here is our network scenario. We have router 1 connected to router 2 and router 2 connected to router 3. Router 1 is going to be the DHCP server and router 3 is going to be the DHCP client. Okay, that means that router 3, when it's powered on, it has to send a broadcast, which is DHCP discover, asking for an IP address. But as you know that the router, it will stop the broadcast, and then in this case router 2 will say, oh, you're sending a broadcast, then I will stop it. Then router 3 will not be able to communicate with the DHCP server to be able to give it an IP address to its interface gigabit 0/0/0. Okay, so in this case, when you have in between the DHCP server and the DHCP client a router, then what we need to do, we need to make this router as a DHCP relay. Okay, so the DHCP relay needs to be configured on this router, and then the DHCP server has to be a DHCP global. Okay, so we are going to use the global method to be able to provide IP address from a pool which is not the same as its interface, which is 192.168.12.0, because at the end the DHCP server, which is sitting here, will have to give an IP address of 172.16.0. something, which is the network where the router 3 is connected to. Point number 1, all IP addresses are set on R1 and R2. Okay, we don't have to put an IP address on R3 because it's gonna take an IP address automatically later from the DHCP server. Let me just put the picture here so we can follow the lab. So the point number 1 is already done. I have already put IP addresses on R1 and R2 as on the picture. Okay, now point number 2, enable DHCP service on R1. So we go to R1. Before I do that, let me just show you. So if I say display IP interface brief on R1, we see that there is an interface gigabit 0/0/0 having an IP address of 12.1, and router 2, if we say display IP interface brief, also it has 192.168.12.2, which is connected to router 1 on gigabit 0/0/0, and then also the IP address which is on gigabit 0/0/1 172.16.0.1, which is going to be the gateway of the DHCP clients. Okay, so now if I make a ping, for example, from router 2 to router 1, ping 192.168.12.1, then it's working. Okay, so now they ask us to enable the DHCP service because we are going to configure DHCP, and by default the DHCP service is always disabled. So we say DHCP enable. Okay, so this point also is done. Let me just check it. So point number 2 is done. Point number 3, configure a pool to have a network of 172.16.0.0/24, gateway 172.16.0.1, DNS, lease time, and we have to exclude the IP address of 172.16.0.254. So what they're asking us here is as following. If we go back here to the graph, they say, okay, you have enabled the DHCP service here, that's fine. Now we need to create a pool. And inside this pool, you have to say, okay, anyone requesting an IP address from me as a DHCP server, I will give it from the range of 172.16.0.0, which is 0.1, 2, 3, and so forth, with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.255, so /24. And then the gateway should be 172.16.0.1, which is this IP address over here, because this router is going to take an IP address here, and then of course the gateway should be 172.16.0.1. That's the interface which is connected to it. And then they ask for lease line and also exclude the IP which is 172.16.0.254. Okay, so this is what we need to do as a pool. That's on router 1. Let's do it. So we go to router 1 now, and from here I have to say IP pool, and then question mark. Here I can put a number, so I have to put, for example, pool 1, and from here I have to start creating the things that he asked us. So first he said that I want the network to be 172.16.0.0 and the mask 255.255.255.0. That's first thing. Then he said that the gateway should be 172.16.0.1 and then the DNS 8.8.8.8, right? Let me check if we're doing the correct work. So yes, DNS is 8.8.8.8. And then the lease time, he said, I want it to be for 3 days, and on hours, 12 hours. So 3 days, 12 hours is what the DHCP servers provide as an IP address, and it will stay leased for 3 days and 12 hours to the DHCP client. And then finally, he asked to exclude the IP address 172.16.0.254. So here I have to say IP exclude. Let's check the comment. So it should be exclude IP address 172.16.0.254. So this IP address will not be included inside the pool. That's excluded. For example, you put it on a server that you wanted to stay static over there. Okay, so in this case, we check here what we have done. So we have made the pool, and then of network 172.16.0.0, that's fine. Having a gateway 0.1, fine. DNS, we put it also, it's fine. The lease is okay, and then the exclude is okay. Then this point is done. Point number 4, make the interface gigabit 0/0/0 a DHCP global. Okay, DHCP global because, as we said, the router is not sitting in the same network where it can use its interface to be like a pool, like what we have done in the previous lab. Okay, so it's going to be a DHCP global. Then in this case, the request coming to it from the DHCP relay, then he can also provide an IP address which is not the same as on its interface. Okay, so let's do that. We go to router 1, and then I have to go to the interface gigabit 0/0/0, which is connected to router 2, and then here I have to say DHCP select and global. Remember when you said here DHCP select ? We have global, interface, and relay. Interface if it's going to provide IP address to the same inside network that where the DHCP clients are. But in our case, they are not in the same network, they are on another network. There's a router in between. Then in this case, we have to say global. Okay. Then I have finished the configuration on router 1. Let's check now. Make the interface global. That's done. Now we go to router 2, and then we have to enable the DHCP service. Because remember, if we go back here to the graph, we have made the pool over here. We made this one as a global interface. It's global here. And then now we have to make some work on router 2 to allow it to be a DHCP relay. So again, if the DHCP comes to here, he will relay the DHCP to router 1 to be able to get the IP address. So let's do that. So we go to router 2 now, they said, and then first we have to enable the DHCP. So DHCP enable. So the point here, number 5, also, it is done. So we have made the DHCP service enabled on router 2. And then configure the interface gigabit 0/0/1 on router 2 to be as relay and to point to the DHCP server IP address. So what they're asking us to do here, so we say, okay, when router 3 is going to send a DHCP request to get an IP address, he will send it to router 2. Router 2, I want it to be a relay DHCP. That means he will relay the traffic, and then he has to send it to this DHCP server, to this IP address. So we have to do 2 things. So we have to do a relay. So let me write it here. I have to say relay on router 2, and then to point to router 1. So to say, okay, the relay will be, all the DHCP traffic will be sent to router 1, which is the DHCP server. Then we have to do those 2 points now. All right. So we go to router 2. So here I have to go to the interface gigabit 0/0/1. Okay, that's the interface connected to the inside network of router 2. And then from here I have to say DHCP select and then ? Now we have to say relay. All right. So remember, you have always to be on the interface which is connected to the DHCP client. So DHCP select relay, and then enter. So that's the first step that we have to do to say that it is a relay, okay, DHCP relay. The second one, we said we need to point to the DHCP server. Then when the DHCP traffic comes to it, he will send it to the DHCP server. Then here we have to say DHCP relay question mark, and then I have to use this command, server IP. That's to point to the IP address of the DHCP server. So server IP, and the IP of the DHCP server is 192.168.12.1. Please check on the picture. Okay, if you want, we can also check together. So I'm pointing to 192.168.12.1. Okay, so let's see if we put, yeah, it's DHCP relay server IP 192.168.12.1. Okay, so this point also is done. So we have configured the interface gigabit 0/0/1 of router 2 to be a relay and to point to the DHCP server IP address. Now, point number 7, enable DHCP on R3. Now, we have finished the work on router 2 and on router 1. Now, we need to configure the DHCP servers to be enabled on router 3 to be able to get an IP address from the DHCP server, okay? Because at this time, router 3 doesn't have DHCP servers enabled. So we say DHCP enable, okay? And then that's done. Then point number 8, check if router 3 can get an IP address on gigabit 0/0/0. If not, solve the problem. So now we have to go to router 3 and we have to go inside the interface. So if I show you here, so let me just clear a little bit here. Okay, so now router 3 on this interface, I'm going to make it as a DHCP client. Means that it will get an ask, I want to get an IP address automatically on this interface. And then we see if it's going to get an IP address or not. Okay, let's do that. I will go to router 3. And then from here, I have to go to the interface gigabit 0/0/0. And then I say IP address DHCP alloc. And then I click enter. So we wait a little bit, and normally if it was working by now, we should have received an IP address, but we are not getting an IP address, and there is a reason why. Okay, if I say here display IP interface brief, you can see that the gigabit 0/0/0 is still not getting an IP address. Okay, so what is the problem? So here they said to us, if it doesn't get an IP address, then solve the problem. So what is the problem here? So let's just make a small review what we've done. We made a pool here of IP addresses to be able to get the DHCP client from the range of 172.16, okay, .0. something. And then we have said that, okay, this interface is going to be global. And then we went to router 2 and we said, you are a relay, and when there is a DHCP request coming to you, relay it to the IP address of the DHCP server to be able to provide the IP address, which is still now all is fine. But there is a problem now that router 1 now, when he wants to send the DHCP back to here, so say that this DHCP request is coming from here to here and it's coming to router 1, that's fine. But router 1, how can he know how he has to send it to here? Because router 1 on his routing table, this is the routing table of router 1, he doesn't know anything about 172.16, right? This network over here, 172.16, he doesn't know anything about it. So how can he send the request back? If we go to router 1 now, and I say on router 1, display IP routing table. So you can see here, he doesn't have any idea of how he can reach the network 172.16.0. Okay, so what is missing over here is that I need now to make a routing or static route to say, okay, router 1, if you want to reach to this network, okay, which is 172.16, so say to this network, 172.16.0.0, then send all your traffic to your connected interface or the next hop, which is 192.168.12.2. In this case, when the request comes from the DHCP client to the DHCP server, then he knows how he can send it back and provide the IP address to router 3. Okay, so this is what is missing now. let's go directly on router 1 and let's do it. So I go to router 1 and then I will say, let me just clear here. And then I will say IP route static. To reach 172.16.0.0, which have the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, then send all your traffic to 192.168.12.2. Okay? And then in this case, this now should work. So if we go now to router 3, here we go. You can see directly when I made the static route, you can see that the interface is up now. And if I say now display IP interface brief, then you can see that he received an IP address of 172.16.0.2. So we didn't receive .254. Okay, so this is how you can configure the DHCP to make the relay for you. So this is the steps that you need to go through. I have also put here a computer on the ENSP. You can see here it's PC1. So if I go inside of it, I have enabled the DHCP. So what I've done here, I have router 1, router 2, router 3, and then, but I put in hub in between, and then I put the PC connected. So it's in the same network of router 3. So this is the PC, I put DHCP enable, and now if I say ipconfig /release, because normally you should have already received an IP address. So you see there is no IP address now. If I say renew, now it should receive also an IP address of 172.16.0.253 and not 254, because remember 254 is excluded. Okay, so you can see this is the IP address, this is the subnet mask, the gateway, and the DNS. So now point number 8, it is done, and we can see now that this is the way how you can configure the DHCP, the global and the relay to work together to be able to assign IP addresses for the networks which are outside the network of the DHCP server. I hope that you enjoyed this lab, and I see you in the upcoming lab.